Life is one big head game. And once you learn to play the head game, it's no longer a game anymore at all. You start living your life.
Welcome to another episode of the One Big Headgame podcast with me, Beau Killingsworth. It's just me today. Garrett's not here today. He's holidaying up with his family. But we got a pretty special guest today. It's a guy that I was referred to by another friend, and he introduced this guy to me as the most inspirational person he's met. Which, you know, I know this guy very well, and that was a big statement. You know what I'm saying? It was a big statement to me. I was like, well, who is this guy, you know? So he told me who it was, and I looked him up on social media, and I was like, oh, I've seen this guy, and he does seem very inspirational, you know? But I'll let him get into it in a little while, but this individual has gone through a big life experience that most people don't. And he has firsthand information, firsthand knowledge of how to deal with an obstacle in your life and how you go from there, a low point to succeeding or achieving something despite something happening to you. You know, that's my view of what's going on here. But, you know, I don't want to define him based upon just that. I don't know this individual very well. But he seems very cool. We had a good time before. He's really into these microphones and cameras, just like me. I've kind of had to get into it doing this podcast, but he seems really cool, man. And I'm really excited to hear his story firsthand and really get into the details of it and where you were and where you've came from and where you're going. So without further ado, this is Sam Primeaux from Lafayette, Louisiana. He's kind of famous over here, it seems like. He's got a little bit of a following. People are very interested in what he's doing for some of the reasons that I said already. So I want to thank you for being here today and being here with me, sharing your story with me. And I'll just start it off, man. You know, why don't you tell the people at home, just kind of give a background of who you are, you know, where you grew up, stuff like that. And then I'll kind of guide you into some other topics, man. Just introduce yourself.
Cool, man. Well, once again, I want to just thank you, and I really appreciate just being able to come on the pod and be able to learn from someone else in the trenches, you know, and it's always inspiring to me to see others in, you know, similar categories. We're all grinding, and, you know, we could all learn from each other, and, man, that's been one of my biggest hacks I've learned along the way. It's like, instead of being envious on the next person, it's like, why don't you take notes? Why don't you ask them, how'd you get so successful? And I bet your success journey will be a lot smoother than just being there, being envious. But anyway, so I'm Sam Primeaux. At 17 years old, I was riding my motorcycle home one evening, caught a patch of rain and got cut off by another driver. So I ended up sliding into the truck, and I woke up to a new reality. So I woke up with the doctors predicting I'd be paralyzed forever, about the chest level down. And, man, as a 17-year-old, you can only imagine what that's like to wake up to a new reality.
Yeah, man, let's slow down. Let's slow down because this is a lot. We talked on the phone before the podcast, and he kind of gave me this same story, but it wasn't enough, man. I want to know. So where were you in life before this happened? So obviously he just described a pretty tragic accident that he was in, but where were you before? How old were you again? 17?
I was 17.
17, and how old are you now?
I'm 24.
24. Okay, so that was
a little over 6 years, like 6.5. So
6-7 years ago. Okay, so you've had a while since that accident. Where were you? I mean, I would imagine, you know, like most kids or 17-year-old men, you know, we were wilding out, doing a lot of stuff. You know, what were you like then, you know? Were you in high school, I guess? Right?
Well, I just graduated, so, man, I was 17 and stubborn, bro. I thought the world owed me one. I was a really arrogant, cocky, know-it-all type of person. And honestly, I I was just starting to get out of my parents' house. Like I just moved out. I was working full time. I thought I was killing it, man. I'd come home with a pocket full of cash every week. You know, I was landscaping, working 80-hour weeks. You know, and I thought that was the way to live. And because in South Louisiana, that's how it is. You go bust your butt all day, you make a little money, and you come home to the kids or whatever. So my envision, you know, back then I was just going to try to run up as much money as I could. I was actually planning to move out to Florida and go partying and go to MIT, learn how to become a motorcycle mechanic. Because at the time I was always into mechanics and motors. I'm an adrenaline junkie by nature, so just learning how to work on them always helped because I love breaking stuff, so I had to learn how to fix it. So for me at that time, I was like, man, that's my calling. You know, I'm going to be a mechanic, and that's that. And I thank God every day that that's not what happened because, man, I was going to go out to Florida, partying, and show them how Louisiana does. But that was probably not the way that was best saw fit. Yeah. So, man, I'm so appreciative of being paralyzed because of what it's taught me and changed in my perspectives, man. And by the end of this story, I think what my value to the world will be is perspective. Is to show you, like, sometimes, unless you're able to just look at someone's story and see it through their angle, then that's great. But sometimes we just have to get knocked off for a pedestal to really understand how great things are, and that to have that reminder, you know, of what it could be. And then the more you chase that what it could be, and the more I've met individuals like yourself or like JP or like all these other people from the gyms and just locally, I've met some super awesome people, and it's like, whoa, you know, like, I want to learn life from your angle. What does it look like from the mountaintops? And to them, they're like freaking, they're amped up by me by, you know, seeing me on the climb, you know, it's so cool.
Yeah, that's outstanding, man. Yeah. And you're so right, man. When you said perspective, it kind of hit me, man. I almost even got choked up because it's such a big deal, you know, like to me personally, that's always what I'm looking for. And I always get trapped in my own, you know, selfish desires and my pride, you know, it's something that I battle all the time. But I try to give myself perspective all the time, you know, because it just keeps you grounded and it keeps you real with yourself. And obviously being real with yourself is the first step to really doing anything with your life, right?
Right.
But that's what I've seen. I don't know your whole story. I'm looking forward to more of it here. But that's what I was hoping to get from you. So I don't doubt that I will. So you were basically just kind of getting out on your own at 17. You kind of had some plans. You maybe were going to go to Florida. Let's talk about the day of that accident. You know what I'm saying? You were on your motorcycle. What kind of motorcycle was it?
So I was riding a 636, which is just, you know, a crotch rocket. It's
a fast bike.
Yeah, oh, very fast bike.
I don't know anything. I don't know anything about bikes. I'm not a mechanic guy, you know.
Oh man, it's a very fast bike, and it's a very powerful bike for a beginner's bike. You know, this was like my first quote unquote my street bike. I'd ridden friends and stuff like that, and honestly, the buddy I was living with at the time, because I'd gotten a big fallout with my parents, ended up leaving the house. Moved in with the buddy, and they were in the street bikes and everything. So I'm like, hey, you know, let me ride it to work and ride it here and there. And then I just fell in love, bro. After my first motorcycle, after my first cop chase, I fell in love. I was hooked. So
cop chase? What do you mean?
Like running from the cops.
Oh, you did that?
A few times.
Oh, okay.
I didn't have a license, and it wasn't my bike, so I knew I just had to get out of Dodge for sure.
And you got away?
A few times. Well, I never got caught. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is news to me. All right, this is getting really interesting. Dang, I didn't know that. So at that time, you were if the cops rolled up on you, you'd just bust out.
We're out. Yeah.
I was 17.
Reckless.
Just for everybody listening, he was 17 years old. You know, he's only 24 now, but. From the cops is not a smart thing.
No, man.
But that just kind of shows what state of mind you were in, you know,
at
that time in your life. I'm glad you said that.
I was with such, and I hate to call, they're not bad people, but we were doing bad things. I was with the wrong crowd, you know, and birds of a feather flock together, dude. And so it's like, I never understood that statement until now, looking back. It's like, wow, you're really doing stupid things just because of who you're surrounding yourself with. And now that I'm surrounding myself with people doing really awesome stuff, it's like, wow, no wonder life's getting so much more awesome. But yeah, man, so I was super reckless. I'm kind of a bipolar creature by nature. Like, my highs are high, my lows are low. So like, whenever I'm in the heat of the moment, cutting up, having fun, that's my high. Like, I'm cool with it. I don't mind running from the cops because that adrenaline kept me fueled. And now I find my fuel and passion and like an inspiration, honestly, because now that I'm understanding kind of what it's done to my life and having that perspective of being able to look back at 3 years ago and be like, wow, that little light of inspiration truly saved my life. So being able to see, well, being able to do that for others and then seeing it, it's like, whoa, okay, this is maybe what my calling is. My calling isn't to just go see how much I can test the limits. I found my limits, and that asphalt reminded me quick I have limits. And as a man, like you said earlier, like we're really prideful, and sometimes it just takes a lot of pain to knock that pride out. And for me, unfortunately, that's what happened. But I'm blessed it wasn't 10 times worse.
And it wasn't death.
Right.
I'm sure you take that perspective a lot. I'm sure that's what got you through, and I want to get into that. But okay, so you have that sport bike. You're reckless. You're kind of in a reckless state of mind, generally speaking, kind of hanging out with not so good guys or guys that just aren't a good influence on you, kind of influencing your decisions. And you get in the accident. Do you remember what happened, like while it was happening? Do you remember any of that, or do you just remember riding your bike and then you woke up?
I was about to say, so thank God I did not recall. So I was awake after the accident. Like I was able to give the ambulance my information, my parents' numbers and stuff.
And you remember that?
No.
Okay.
So this is all off the police report, because I woke up confused, but whenever they give me the, you see your police statement or report or whatever, and it's like, whoa, how was I able to still walk around and talk? But I guess with the adrenaline and the way the doctors described it's like our body goes into fight or flight once with that type of incident or trauma.
Yeah.
So my body was just, able to keep me going until I got into the CAT scan table is whenever I lost feeling. And that's whenever I started freaking out. So I guess they, drugged me up and got to doing the scans, the surgeries, all that good stuff.
Wow. That's incredible. You just know from reading the police report. You don't know. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I'm no doctor, but it doesn't surprise me that when you're so amped up with all that adrenaline, like you don't even have any energy to remember. Like your brain is just, kind of on autopilot.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, dude, I vividly remember the leaving my friends. So, we were hanging out with my buddy Brandt's house right up the road. Man, not even 5 miles away from home, right? So I get a call. My mom's like, hey, look, the weather's getting real bad. Can you come home before it starts raining, because I was going to go talk and hang out with them. So I said, all right, cool. So I'm riding home, and we lived the backside of Milton, which is a small town, Louisiana. And so I'm coming down this old country road, and the roads by my house, I didn't act ass because I knew for a fact my mom was at home and could hear me. And she hated the bike from the get-go. So I was like, I'm not gonna add insult to injury. Like I'm gonna go chill. And it was raining. So those two factors on the road I was on, I know for a fact I wasn't going crazy, which I'm very thankful for, because man, I was the type of person to hit 0 to 100, just see how fast I go, just because I'm like, whoa, I get that adrenaline rush. But I'm thankful whenever I wrecked, dude, I was doing like sub 30 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
So it was really the landing, which is what, got me such a bad injury. But the way I rode that thing on a day-to-day basis, like I would be dead if it would have been any other conditions,
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Okay, so God, that's so crazy, man.
Oh yeah, and the more you're gonna pick into the story, you're gonna be like, whoa,
yeah.
It's crazy.
And I'm gonna, trust me. So you woke up. Obviously, things are happening at the hospital. You get an ambulance. You go to the hospital. You don't remember any of this, but you know what happened.
Right.
So you wake up in the hospital. What does that look like? What does the room look like? Let's get into the details of it.
So the first times I could really recall vivid memories of me waking up. I was in the ICU room.
Okay.
I had all kind of friends around me, a couple family members.
Was it a communal room or a private room?
I think they're private for the ICUs.
You didn't see any other injured people in there, for instance,
no.
or sick people?
But then again, I also didn't really get up and look around.
All right. So
and
you see some people that are your friends and family around you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, like I remember I even had friends calling from offshore that are, out there doing oil field work, and they're calling like, dude, are you still alive? Like, what's going on?
Okay.
So, anyway.
You had your phone on you?
Well, I guess it was like
somebody
a friend
had it.
phone. Yeah.
Got it. Oh, yeah, somebody had. Yeah, they're like, so-and-so's on the phone. Yeah. Gotcha.
Because, I mean, man, it was chaos.
Yeah.
So, whenever I woke up, I woke up to chaos, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? But, I mean, man, you were on so much Dilaudid and the morphine or whatever all the drugs they give me were. I was so doped up, it's like I didn't even notice what was going on. I just knew I was in a hospital bed, and everything kind of felt numb, but I didn't put two and two together. So until like roughly, 2 or 3 days after the incidents, whenever I'm, I guess, stable enough and off, all the crazy drugs to where it's not what's the word? I don't know. My mind was actually, back to normal in a sense a few days after. And then I vividly remember.
So when you're on so many drugs, your mind is getting affected too. I mean, obviously,
your equilibrium
you're
is
happy
just everywhere.
Or you're like, what is going on?
Yeah, I'm like, man, I feel kind of good, but like, what are we doing in the hospital?
So at that point, no one's told you what has happened to your body, or maybe they didn't even have the true diagnosis yet. Where are we at with that?
So I guess I wasn't even questioning it because I'm still, so messed up on everything.
But they didn't like jam you into the conversation and say, hey, this is what.
No, by the time I was able to actually understand what was going on, yeah, that was the first conversation. So I had
that's a couple days later.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I had a doctor and my mom there. My mom's, standing to the right side of me. The doctor's on the left. He's got his notepad, and they kind of broke it down what was going on. Like, hey, okay, you were coming home the other night. You got into a motorcycle wreck, blah blah. So you're shattered. I think it was my T4 and my T3 in my vertebrae, which is about thoracic level. It's a little over my nipple line.
Okay.
So I shattered those two vertebrae together, and what I did was puncture my spinal cord. So I think of our spinal cord, that's your nervous system, that's your wiring system for your body. So the way the doctor described it to me is whenever I impacted, the vertebrae shattered, it punctured the spinal cord, the fluid leaked out. So whenever it's leaking out, my body went in that fight or flight protect mode, and all the muscles and everything around my the injury just kind of squeezed up and basically like kinked up my wiring harness. And so they said with these type of injuries, if you don't see any type of recovery within the first 6 months to a year, you're typically going to live out the rest of your life in a wheelchair. And dude, I'm still like kind of dazed. I'm like, I'm not going to spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. I said, dude, I just walked for 15 years? You can tell me I could never figure this out again? Like, no, I'm pretty damn sure I'm going to recover. And I didn't know what recovery meant. I didn't know what that looked like. All I knew was I was in pain. I was like, man, to my toes, I am in immense pain. To this day, I still am. But I'm like, you can't tell me there's all this pain for nothing. And they said, oh, there's all these, clinical diagnoses, and well, your nerves are doing this, and your muscles are jumping around. But, they give you the medicine to calm your nerve pain or calm the spasms. But I was really reluctant because I'm like, no, I mean, if there's pain, there's feeling. If there's feeling, there's something. You can't tell me there's a complete disconnect if I could still feel something. So that was me waking up to the
doctor told you that, and your first instinct was
refusal,
rejection, denial.
Rebellion. Yeah, denial was a lot more of it.
Denial
sure.
of the ultimate nature, the ultimate nature of the diagnosis that he potentially laid down to you.
1,000%.
Okay, so you started with that, and then started the emotional roller coaster, I'm assuming.
Oh my God,
okay.
Was it like I had said, like I'm bipolar, so once I finally it started clicking, and I'm like, okay, look, I can look at my legs, but they ain't doing shit. There's nothing but pain and dead weight, So by the time I finally actually let it soak in what was going on around me, man, it was my life shattered. I felt like in front of my face because I was 17. I was about to be a young bird, or I was about to be a free bird and fly the coop, go move and start my life, start my journey is what I thought. I just got on my feet and they swept me off my feet, clean off my feet. And there was nothing I could do about it. That's what made me mad. And so at that time,
anger.
I was a lot more of a short fuse, man. And over time, I've kind of have a better temperament. But yeah, whenever that first happened, dude, I was a short fuse to some dynamite, dog. So I was pissed, but I couldn't do anything, like whenever they were telling me that, actually, my mom and the doctor, I was like, man, y'all are stressing me the fuck out. Like, I need to go smoke a cigarette. And they were like, okay, well, go try to smoke a cigarette. And dog, when I couldn't pick my shoulder up off the bed, panic. That's whenever I started getting loud. They probably come put some more Dilaudid in my little thing. But at first it was pain and anger.
Denial, then.
The denial for sure.
Then the anger.
And then it's like the anger is what really I think pushed me to the really dark thoughts, because it's like, why is if there's a God so great, why would he do this to me? And if the world's it's I don't know. I think I tried to look for outside variables to blame, But at the end of the day, I knew what I was signing up for when I bought that bike. I knew what I was signing up for whenever I rode like I rode. I knew what I was getting into. I knew the game I was playing, so I couldn't complain about the card I got dealt.
I bet you did, though.
Oh, bad
Yeah.
for years.
For years, okay.
For years.
When do you think you changed from the blaming the outside circumstances to saying, you know what, I'm responsible here?
So
I'm assuming you've gotten to that point because I
for
can
sure.
already tell because of your
1000%.
temperament and who you are. It seems like. So when do you think you changed? There's probably a moment or a time period where you kind of just broke down or something.
I guess the breakdown was definitely in the hospital, so in the hospital I was at, I went to Lafayette General. You know, they did the surgery, had everything stable. I think I was there for 3 weeks, maybe more, somewhere in that neighborhood. But then they shipped me off to Houston, Texas. So there's a place called TIER. It's a super advanced place for like spinal cord injuries and stuff like this. And basically what they did was, it's advanced therapy, teaching you how to live your life in a wheelchair, using the restroom, using the day-to-day living, just the normal
Training,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, basically. And I was mad because
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought I went to this advanced spinal cord facility for me to learn how
To
to walk.
get fixed, and they were trying to get you to settle in.
Exactly. Yeah, they were just warming me up for the new life I was about to live.
Yeah, I could see you being in there, being like, yeah, you can teach me all this stuff, but I ain't gonna need it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't need to learn how to use a wheelchair. Teach me how to walk. They're like, dude, your legs are not doing anything. Like, what do you mean? And matter of fact, at the time, I still had a broken arm, and Lafayette General had missed it because I had so much pain. I'm like, dude, something's not right with my arm. They x-rayed it,
Wow.
didn't see anything. I'm in Texas, and they're making me do like all these little workouts and stuff with the bands.
You're
to
like,
just-
ow, you know.
I'm all intense pain, and I have a very high pain tolerance. So, being my mom and dad, you know, they're in Louisiana, so whenever they come visit, and I would tell mom about all this pain I'm in, and she's like, "Look, bro, y'all need to do something about this because this kid does not just complain about anything." So they did. They're like, "Oh, okay, you have a hairline fracture," and I'm like, "Oh, smooth." So I've been working out 3 weeks with a broken arm. That's cool, but my whole thing, I'm like, you nailed it on the head. Like, I'm not gonna need these.
That's how
functions.
I only know that because that's the exact same way I see myself. I'd be like, I don't even want to know this.
Why are we wasting time
Yeah,
messing
yeah.
with this wheelchair?
Why don't you pull up some data and I can at least research what's going on so I can get better?
Oh, the research
Like,
made
what
me
do I
way
do?
more sad, way worse.
Oh my
getting in
gosh.
those loopholes.
Oh, the rabbit holes of
it,
that. Yeah,
it was bad, man.
Wow. But yeah, that's what I would be. I would be fighting it tooth and nail. I would be denying it. I would be pissed. I would be so angry.
You're angry at the
God.
world. Exactly.
God. And I'm a faithful guy, you know. But that's why your story is interesting to me. And anybody who's been through a traumatic injury like that changes your life like that in such a big way, because I, like most people, I would assume, like, put myself in your situation, you know, and like, how would I measure up?
Right.
You know what I mean? And how would I handle it? And it would not be pretty, man. You know, and I try to be as intrinsic as possible, understand myself, understand the steps necessary to get better, to change my circumstances, all that. That's kind of what this podcast is about. But you can't prepare yourself for it, right?
There is no
You've
preparing.
been through it.
Oh, for sure.
So there's no preparing for it, and it's literally a forced upon you journey that you must take, or you bail.
And for the first few years, that was my plan. So by the time I'm out of the hospital and everything, I had my mindset on, I'm going to become a recluse. I'm going to just, no one's going to see me anymore. They're going to forget about
Your
me.
mindset on that, as in, like, that was a fear of yours.
No, like that was my
Plan?
that was my plan.
Like,
I was
Your
going
plan
home.
was just, I'm going to be.
I'm gonna hide
sitting-
away from the world because
Okay.
I looked at that wheelchair. I'm like, this isn't me. I don't know who the fuck this Sam is that I'm looking at, but it's not me. So I was like, I don't want people to see me like this. I don't want to give them the opportunity. So my thought, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna shut out the world and just rot away at home. Thank God I have a group of friends that did not let that happen. I came home to a party. I had 30 friends, and they were acting like it's a birthday party, and it was funny. We were living in a trailer, so we got a big old long ramp to get into the house. So we're chilling.
ramp
on the porch.
was there
Well,
before.
oh yeah, my dad and his friend had built it before I even got back from the hospital, and so I'd gotten back and figuring out the ramp situation was crazy enough, and then me and my friends, like, it's funny, before the accident we would get in wheelchairs and mess around and do wheelies and stuff and joking, and now we're still doing that, but now I actually need a wheelchair. So I'd get off, I'd go sit on the couch and let one of my friends go ride around in it or whatever. The first day I came home, actually, I flipped out the wheelchair. I was doing wheelies and whap. Everybody's freaking out because like, you're gonna break your back. I'm like,
it's already broke.
If the asphalt couldn't kill me, I don't think this wheelchair is gonna do it.
Yeah.
But so I got home, and thankfully, like my friends, they didn't let that happen. They're like, dude, you're still Sam. Like you're just you're going through a different thing. You're going through a transition. And I'm like, dude, no, I don't know who this guy is. This is not my body. This is just not me. And thankfully, over the following weeks, it was pretty evident that I'm super weak. It's a struggle just to roll around the house and get in and out off the furniture and my bed. And so I had a friend, my buddy Nick. He was just starting his fitness journey, about that same time. He's like, look, bro, I've been going to the gym, and I really think it would help you. Like, you need to start coming to the gym with me. You're only working with 25% of your body. Like, you need to at least get strong enough to do your normal task. And I was like, I mean, that's common sense. So I reluctantly, I was like, all right, I'll hear it out and I'll go try it. So he brings me to Planet Fitness, and dude, I hated it at first. I wasn't a big person in the gym. Like, I was very athletic and did sports, but that was just kind of genetically. I didn't give two shits about the weight room. So going into Planet Fitness first time, I'm like, this is a new world. I don't like it. And I stuck out like a sore thumb because you're the only guy in a wheelchair. So I'm like,
so you feel like
around.
people are looking at you and stuff.
I felt the judgment. I was like, this is no judgment zone.
Yeah,
bullshit. They're judging me right now.
Bull crap, yeah.
But
bull junk.
Yeah, but honestly, they accepted me with open arms. Really, like whenever they started to figure me like to get to know me, I guess, because people would start coming asking questions. And at the beginning, dude, I was so weak. I would, fall trying to get in and out of machines. And I can't tell you how many friends I've made, and I'm still friends with to this day, that have just picked me up off the ground. Like, hey man, you look like you're struggling. I'm like, yeah, thanks, Captain Obvious. And at first it was
you
kind
ever
of
get
offensive.
mad at them?
Oh, for sure. I would blow up on people a lot.
Like, leave me alone.
Oh yeah, I'm like, I got it. And like they're like, well, I don't know, it doesn't look like you got it. I'm like, stop looking then.
Forget you. Mind your own business, right?
So, but thankfully, my buddy that would bring me to the gym, like, dude, he would drive 30 minutes out of his way just to come pick me up to bring me to the gym. And he was fairly new to it.
That's a good friend, man.
Oh, he's a great friend. But he knew he wasn't a trainer, but he was like, he would teach me the things he's learning, and then we would, try it. I'm like, bro, I can't get on a machine. I'm gonna do a chest press. He's like, look, bro, this is how it feels for me. Like, we can get you set up, and anyway, get me all strapped in and such. And so one day I'm at Planet Fitness, and an older guy named Will comes up to me, and he starts picking on me. He's like, man, you're gonna keep clanking them weights around, because I would get my little 5 pounds on my cable machine and go crazy. And so anyway, he came bullying me, and I was like, man, what do you want, dude? Like, just leave me alone. And when he just kept pestering, and he was like, man, I got a friend that's paralyzed. He's a bodybuilder. He trains here. Like, I'd really want to introduce you to. And we just kind of became friends from there. And he actually was in the gym a lot longer than Nick and I. So, bro, he taught me all kind of stuff about training. And then I meet this other guy, Nathan, who's the paralyzed bodybuilder. Dog, opened my freaking mind up. Like, it was like a mind explosion, really.
You're enlightened.
And because this dude is like 6'4", 250 pounds, jacked, but his legs are like toothpicks because he's paralyzed. So but he walks with crutches. So I'm like, oh, this motherfucker can walk, and he's paralyzed. What's up? Like, I'm like, teach me. And so, but what he taught me was bodybuilding. He taught me the anatomy, the way our body works, and because bodybuilding and recovery are very similar. The way you're going to break down and recover and repair a muscle for aesthetics is the same concepts and principles you're going to use to repair something that's no longer working. Or for me, that made enough sense for me to buy into it. And man, he taught me all kind of like tips, tricks, supplements, nutrients, vitamins, diets. And so while all this is happening, I'm still going to physical therapy locally, and I was also in SLCC because I just started school. I was like, well, look, my way of making money, I was landscaping, cutting grass. That just got shit out the window. How do I make money? Well, I wanted to become an architect, so I followed that route and started doing AutoCAD, drawing the house plans and schematics and stuff online. So I'm doing that. I'm going to the gym relentlessly, and therapy. Dude, my grandfather would drive an hour from his house, pick me up, bring me to therapy, to the school, to the gym, and then back home. And so it was a weird pivot when this started to get noticed, and people were like, dude, you're in here like every freaking day. I'm like, every day that I can. Yeah, if my grandpa can come, I'm here. And they're like, why? I'm like, well, I want to get out of this wheelchair. And they're like, well, good luck with that. And so I would follow my schedule pretty diligently. My buddies teach me about meal prepping and diets. So I would come to the gym with 5 freaking lunch pails in my lunch bag and have my meal preps and get the workers to go throw it in the microwave in the back. And so I made friends with some workers, and the manager was like, "Hey man, look, we just had a spot open up. Would you want to come work here?" And so I'm like, "Dude, that's the last place I want to work, but why not? I'm gonna try it out." And honestly,
Which place?
And this is at the Planet Fitness.
Oh, okay, at the gym. Okay.
It was like a front desk clerk or
Gotcha,
whatever.
gotcha.
Started to show me what the gym culture was, because in a nutshell, we're all in there doing one thing, trying to get better. Whatever perspective that is, doesn't matter where you start, where do you want to finish. So being around these people for 6 hours a day with my shift, plus my hour or two of working out, it just became so like so eye-opening, because that perspective was like, oh shit, okay, well, if I continuously aim at better, continuously put in work to do better, I might get better. And sure enough, it started to show, and I started to kind of get out of that shell, that box I'd built up for myself. After the wreck, I'd built those walls I didn't want anyone to see. But being that I was working the front desk, I'm trying to sell people memberships, giving them tours, cleaning the gym. Like, I had no option but to talk. So, and I'm so grateful for that, because man, I would spend my hours, like everyone would complain and gripe and groan about the job. I loved it just because I can go talk my shit. I can go up to the most ripped up person and be like, dude, how'd you do this? Like, what workouts, and I like to learn. So being around people doing better than me, I was like, oh man, this is great. Someone's got to figure this out, And so as the time's progressing, I'm getting to a halt in therapy, and man, it really broke me because I felt it coming. Like, we had progressed through all the lifestyle stuff. Like, I was pretty good in a wheelchair. So there,
How long after the accident are we talking here?
probably 6 months to a year, like still in that really fresh, that newer stage. So I'm about
That's
18.
it. You got into the gym within 6 months of
Yeah.
Wow, that's a blessing, man. That's a blessing.
A huge blessing.
If you don't take action quick, that I'm sure
You don't use it, you lose it.
very fast.
For
mentally.
sure.
You know,
Mentally, exactly. And I think what it was,
could see
the
that for
best
myself.
thing about the gym was giving my mind something else to think about than
Yes.
the unknown, because
Yeah.
the unknown was terrifying me, and it was rotting my mental health away.
Yeah.
So what I continuously started. Well, I continuously working out of the gym, and I'm progressing in therapy. And man, I would go to the gym and do specific workouts to try to better my therapy. I'm like, okay, I'm getting to the point where I'm walking with braces and crutches that will go from my feet to my chest level and lock everything out to just give me the opportunity to stand. So I'm like, man, I could only freaking stand for 20 seconds before my arms give out, because this is 120 pounds of dead weight.
Yeah.
So I was like, I would go talk to my paralyzed buddy. I'm like, Nathan, how do I do this? How do I do that? And so he'd give me training routines and kind of help me and guide me whenever we'd be working out at the same time and whatnot. And so we would, progressively getting better. Like, I'm getting stronger in the gym. I go to therapy. My legs output's not changing at all, but my upper body, I'm able to at least stand up longer and do the assignments longer, But it came to a point where I was like, man, there's no way I could live and use these crutches and braces every day. It's just not feasible. There's no way. And that was really heartbreaking. But what made it even more heartbreaking was the phone call from the therapy center that said, hey, your insurance just sent us back that we're going to have to stop your treatments. You've come to, you met the requirements that were needed. So we're not going to be able to keep treating you. And dude, talk about crush me. And at this point, I already had it set in my mind. I said, man, if I'm not walking by 19, I'm gonna unalive myself. I'm like, that's why I call it quits. Give myself that little chunk of time. If nothing's cracking, I'm out of here. And this was pretty close to probably the month leading up to my 19th birthday.
All right, so 17 when the accident happened. Maybe you're 17 and a half or something. So that 19 mark was like a year and a half or year and a half?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, so you were you serious about that?
Oh, I was 1,000%. And I didn't realize how serious I was until they got closer to that date and I got that phone call. That's when the weight of the world really dropped on my fucking shoulders. And it was like, all right, well, I already got the gun. I'm ready to go. But whenever I got the call, me and my girlfriend at the time were at the supermarket right up the road from the gym where I was working and where my buddy Nathan lived. He lived in the neighborhood behind it. So I'm like, dude, I got that phone call. I'm crushed. I'm like being an a-hole to her, like going off on her for whatever, just because I didn't know how to interpret or handle my thoughts and emotions. So I was reflecting it on the one person next to me, and she was like, look, I'm going to go in the store. You could sit in the car and collect yourself, and like, I'm good. So I was like, no, get the chair out. I'm gonna get in the store, and then we got another fight. So I was like, you know what? You go shop. I'm gonna chill out here. And while I'm sitting outside, like trying to just catch my head, I had a little old lady. I don't think she meant any harm by it. You know, she was going to the store. She said, hey, sweetie, can I help you with anything? And dog, I blew up on this lady. I was like, get the, because I'm in a fucking wheelchair. You think I need your help? And like I stormed off. And I'm like, ooh, I know Nathan lives not too far. So I rolled like maybe a half mile, rolled to Nathan's house. And the whole time I'm rolling, man, I'm crying, bro. I'm got tears dripping down my face. I'm like, God, if you're real, why the fuck did you put me through this? If you're all so mighty, why am I having to carry the weight of this load? And it's like, I was like, God's not real. That's how I felt. At that moment in time, I was like, God's not real. Because if he were, and he was so awesome, why would he make me feel like this? But now I'm learning years later as to why. So I got to Nathan's, and he's like, dude, what's wrong? And so I was like, man, insurance has cut me. Like, we're coming up close on that mark, and I'm ready to pull the trigger. I'm tired of fighting. I feel like I'm swimming upstream.
Had you already told Nathan about your plans?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I told him, like, he knew I was kind of.
What was his response to that?
Well, his response was save me, man. He said, the perspective he gave me, he said, think about your mom and your grandma and everybody you love, your grandpa that I see brings you to the gym. Did any of them want you to get that bike? I said, no, they wanted the opposite. He said, so, okay. So you went and did something against the grain, and you disobeyed all these the advice you were given, and it backfired, and now you're having to live with the consequences. So you're wanting to go kill yourself, which is just putting your pain and problems onto all those people around you that did not cause it. What would that make you? And I was like, well, it wouldn't matter because I wouldn't have to worry about it anymore. He said, but now they have to live with something that they didn't cause. And it really gave me that perspective, because I think about my grandma and my grandpa, and I'm like, the last thing I could do is crush them with this kind of weight, because I
already dealt with you going through it.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, they were going through it right there with me, because it's a big lifestyle change on your entire family when something like that happens. So, but with that perspective, he also hit me with, if someone says you can't, that shows their limits, not yours. How the fuck are you going to let another therapist or anybody tell you what you can or can't do?
Yeah.
And that stuck, because, I'm stubborn and I don't like being told what to do. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? You can't walk after this, but I can. Yeah. You can't recover, but I will. And so that completely shifted. It took the pain and anger and fury I had towards myself, mm-hmm. and it oddly, well, no, at the time it was reflected to the wheelchair. I turned it into myself. I said, okay, well, if I want to beat myself up, I got to beat myself up on the ways on recovery process. So, like, for training, for instance, people are like, man, how can you train so hard? Or how can you train so long? It's like, I love this shit. Yeah. I love that feeling. It's kind of like it's like I feel like I'm fighting against my own body every day. So it's like a little bit of the new pains. Yeah, I like that. At least I'm feeling something.
Yeah.
The uncontrollable movements, at least they're moving.
Yeah.
And so anyway, fast forward maybe.
So wait, but let's slow down. So you got in the fight with your girlfriend, and then you rolled over to Nathan's house, and Nathan is the other individual.
Yeah, that's the paralyzed bodybuilder.
So you were crying the way there. You were essentially smiting God for having put you through this. When you arrived over there, you started going into it, like you told Nathan what was going on, what was bothering you. What was it like, riding yourself over there and talking to Nathan that got you off of your plans? What changed? You obviously didn't go through with it.
It was 1,000% what he said, because of the feeling. Oh yeah, for sure. Like that instant.
Okay.
Because the ride there, like,
and that was basically what you were talking about, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
So literally within that, it was maybe a 20 or 30 minute push, from the store to his house. And the whole time, by the time I got to his house, I thought that there was no God, and I was like, if there is such a God and he's got me through this, like that's the worst God I could ever think of, was my thought process. And he didn't necessarily, he's not a very like religious person, so he didn't like try to give me the gospel, because I wouldn't have understood it or absorbed it. He gave me the perspective on what it's like on the other side of that, on that trigger, and I'm like, ooh, that's not cool. I can't do that to them. That they didn't even want me on this bike. They've done nothing but try to help me. I can't turn this around on them. And then with the, like, whenever he tricked me into believing in myself. He said, if they said you can't, that shows their limits, not yours. Just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done.
Was this a heated conversation? Were you extremely emotional over there with him? Did y'all just sit down? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, like on the ride there, I was yelling to God. But whenever me and him, we were just talking. And I was kind of probably talking and sobbing, I'm sure. But, man, I was I felt like all the fight I had left in me from all this was gone. And he completely, like, poured some gas and lit a fire under my ass. It was like, no, you got a lot more to go. And being that I seen his perspective from, you know, the suicide thing, as well as he showed me the perspective of how much you can get done. And keep in mind, his goal, he accepted his fate. He was not planning to recover. He just wanted to become as physically able to do as much as he could throughout his life, you know,
the most out of his life.
So, and that's where he found bodybuilding, and he went from a, you know, almost 300-pound fat guy getting paralyzed to now he's super shredded and jacked up. But anyway, so he just showed me that he found something that he really loved and he loved to work for, and look how far it's gotten him. And he showed me, look, man, I have a house, I cook, I clean, I do my stuff. I live, you know, he was living independent. That was the first person I drove with after my accident, because he has the car with the handicap controls. And I'll never forget that day. It's like he picked me up from the gym, and he freaking, on his crutches, grabbed my wheelchair, disassembled it, put it in his car, gets in, and teaches me how to drive. And I was like, oh, shit, dude, I could still drive. I could still do all these things. I could still have girlfriends and wives, or, you know, whatever. I could still live.
Life is possible.
Yeah, I could still have a life. And so the trickiest part, I think, was learning to live and love the life I'm living while I'm working for the life I want. So for that first, you know, we'll call it 2 years, that was my block. I was like, oh, I hate life, and this is not fair. But whenever you realize, well, it could be worth, I met people pushing their wheelchairs out of a straw. So it's like, I really can't bitch about that much. I can't complain that much. And being that I had a lot of pain, he kind of was like, look, bro, pain is something, right? Pain is feeling. It's not a feeling you want, but it's a feeling. And I'm like, well, I did ask for feeling. I guess I didn't specify in my prayer what feeling I wanted. So, but anywho, so after he snapped me into it, I called Bree. I'm like, hey, can you come pick me up at Nathan's, whatever. So we kind of boiled that down with me and her, you know, I apologize or whatnot. And so we go off, and now I'm in this new abyss of still, I'm in the unknown. I'm still scared. But now I felt like my medical professionals around me just threw in the towel. They were just like, good luck. And they weren't even saying good luck. They were like, thumbs up, you know, or send you that K text message. I'm like, that's how I felt with my therapist.
You're not getting much help for the medical professionals, or you feel like that at that point, but you have a new lease on life, and it's different now. You, most importantly, aborted your plans, your mortality plans, and you have a direction. You have somewhere where you want to go, right? Do you know exactly what it is, or you just knew, hey, okay, this is worth living, I'm going to figure it out, and then you started there?
I started there, and I, like, that shift, that conversation really made it go from the hopelessness to that's where I got my first taste of inspiration. I was like, oh, shit, this is what it means to really feel amped up about myself, my journey, my self-worth. So from there, man, I was like, well, I don't have any outside resources, you know, with therapists giving up on me. I said, well, what do I do? So I just continued. Now I got in the gym a little bit more because I could spend a little bit more time now that I don't have therapy, you know, the 2 times a week or whatever it was. I'll go straight from school to come work out and hang out at the gym and then work. And dude, I would literally be at the gym from probably like 11, maybe 12 in the morning until at least 10 or 11 at night whenever my girlfriend would come pick me up at the end of my shift. And so at this time, I'm still trying to figure out like finances. How do I get a car? How do I still provide for myself? What do I do? So that's kind of where I put some of my focus on. I was like, okay, I'm in school. Oh, excuse me. I'm in school for this degree in order for me to be able to pay for whatever I need to recover, right? So I'm literally probably a couple months in to or away from graduating to get my degree. And that's whenever I learned about stem cells. Like I'd continuously been trying, man. I'd go to the gym, do my little workout. I'd get on the leg extension machine, and dude, I would sit there and my legs would dangle little noodles. And bruh, talk about heartbreaking isn't even the word. It felt like Mike Tyson just ran up and snuck me. And it's like that kind of, you ever got hit so hard you want to cry, but all your friends are looking, so you kind of got to just grit your teeth and get off the machine and go back home. It was like that every day. And it's like that psychotic, like bad feeling. It's like fired me up to be like, I'm going to figure this out. So I would continuously doing that. And I didn't see really any type of movement much. And so as my upper body got stronger, I started to find things like pull-ups, for instance. I was like, oh, okay, I learned about compound exercise, compound movements. I said, oh, well, this one can make my core fire, for stability and balance or whatever with doing pull-ups. So I was like, well, let's try it. And I worked my way up from doing, lat pulls to I would do pull-ups, and I'd have friends around me kind of helping guide and stuff. And so what that started to do was get my back so strong that it helped, like it correlated to my core and my obliques starting to strengthen up a little bit, making my quality of life a lot better.
Interesting.
So I was like, ooh, right. I was like, okay, now we're on to something.
Yeah. So at this point, is that before or after stem cell became a thing?
Oh, that was a little bit before. So
okay, so whenever you started to see those changes,
right?
While you were kind of getting introduced to that stem cell situation,
right? So in the midst of the back progression turning into my core stability, that was the first realization that, oh shit, I can turn things back on. I can learn how to use this dead weight as something good. So, and then that same friend Nathan, he's like, man, look, I don't know if you ever heard of stem cells. I've done a little bit of research. It seems like it might be something.
Had he gone through it, or
no? He
just kind of heard about it.
Well, yeah, and he'd done a lot of research because he's like one of those like super nerdy. They'll dive into all the rabbit holes sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure how he came across them, but I guess he knew how like dead set I was on my recovery. So he was like, look, man, I've checked out these stem cells. Like, look into this. So I started Googling, like, what are stem cells? What do they do? Do stem cells cure paralysis? This, that, and the next. Can they fix the spinal cord? Can they fix the nervous system? And it was a bunch of no's, a bunch of negative reviews, answers. Everybody was like, this is junk. This is a waste of money, blah, blah. It was all the most negative stuff I could find. But at that time, I was learning about credit, finances, and I was like, well, I learned leverage. I learned, well, I built my credit while I'm, working and doing all this stuff. I said, well, I tried to I did get a credit card approval, and I was like, okay, look, this stuff's $10,000. I got my care credit. Let me take the risk, let me backstep it a couple steps. So, whenever I'd found out about stem cells, nothing but bad reviews, until I found this one guy on Instagram. And he was a quadriplegic. He had went to a Rejuve Medical in Minnesota, and he was seeing a little bit of progress. Like his therapy seemed to get more intense, and he was seeing return back. So I reached out to him, and he's a real cool guy. And like he was really straight up with me. He's like, man, it's like not a miracle pill or anything, but it's definitely starting to help me a lot. And for him, he was into mechanics too, so he just wanted to be able to have the hand function to use his tools and stuff. But seeing him going from absolutely nothing to even having some hand movements, and now he can grab a wrench or his phone, or I was like, that sold me. That's enough. So what do? At this time, I'm like the last few weeks of graduating. I'm like, bro, all my classmates are like, man, yeah, we're gonna go start working here, making $60,000 a year, whatever it is. And I'm like, $60,000. I'm doing the math. I'm like, so I gotta trade 8 hours a day for this. My stem cells are $10,000 off the rip. So that's how am I going to work and do stem cells and put in the effort in my body as in working out, therapy, just the maintenance, taking care of yourself. I was like, there's not enough time in the day. But this is where Inner Animal started to come about. Like all in the meanwhile, while I became so relentless and religious, honestly, about the gym and my structure, that people would always come say, you're motivational, you're inspirational. And honestly, it was offensive at first. I'm like, I'm motivational because I drove to the gym, or because I came to the gym, or I opened the door. Like that really lit a fire under you. Like what? But as I started to almost finish up with school, I'm like, at this time I'd been doing my little videos and stuff, posting workouts that I'd learned from Nathan and all my other gym friends. And I just put them on Instagram. I'm like, hey, hopefully if someone has like an injury or something, they're wanting to get in shape, they could look at these videos and see how to work out. Bro, they get 40 freaking views and 3 likes, one of them being my grandpa. And, you know, like no one gave a shit about the videos. But I was like, okay, well, what if I turn this inspiration into something? So there's like my little epiphany. It was, I was like, man, I'm looking around at all these big brands like Nike and Under Armour. I'm like, man, I can make a gym brand. Why don't I just do that? And I'll make my content and I'll, you know, sell clothes, because I didn't want to be I felt like a freeloader, and, you know, I don't like feeling like a bum with my hand out. I'd rather at least try to work or give them something in return. So it's like t-shirts. We all legally obligated to wear clothes. I could figure out clothes. It'd be easy enough.
Yeah.
Little did I know, that was a big learning curve. But
Yeah.
so I was like, you know what? Look, I graduated. I haven't even opened that app on my computer since graduation.
Yeah.
Got the diploma. I was like, all right, cool. But by this time, I'd already started Inner Animal. And whenever we were in the gym, while I was talking about it, telling my friends, like, man, I'm gonna start this Instagram page. I'm gonna make a brand. I'm gonna call it Gorilla Genetics, because I got a big gorilla tattoo on my arm. Because I've always been my mom's monkey. I'm the gorilla of the family, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, man, like that's my. People would ask, like, what's your guiding light? Like, how do you keep pulling through these challenges? Like, my inner animal, my spirit animal is just guiding me through this. Really, now I know that's like the spiritual strength of God. This is not from an animal, but that was my best way to interpret it or understand it.
Yeah. It's kind of like an alter ego.
Basically.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I find strength in knowing that I could become this big raging gorilla and overcome any of my obstacles. So I was like telling my friends, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna name it Gorilla Genetics, and they're like, no, that's lame. Don't do that. So we're in the gym, literally, like in the middle of sets, we're like spitballing ideas back and forth. And I said Inner Animal, and they're like, hold up, that sounds pretty catchy. Like, look it up. Yeah. I looked it up, couldn't find anything. And I had a friend that was in our little friend group. He was a lawyer, or he is a lawyer. He was like, man, go home, get your LLC, this, that, and next. I didn't know nothing about any of that. I was just like, all right, cool. I knew I had a credit card. Yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. We're going to get on Google, LLC. I, ended up on LegalZoom, did my filing. And I'm like, all right, I have a business. What do I do? Yeah. All right, shirts. So I found a friend that's selling, wholesaling shirts. All right, cool. Logo. Found this gorilla. I brought it to a logo person. I was like, hey, I want it like this, but can we change a couple things? And we did it, and they slapped the Inner Animal around it. So I literally, the following, day or whatever, I went around the gym to random people. Some people I knew, some I didn't. I go to a mid-set. Hey, man, excuse me. What would you do if I started selling T-shirts with this logo on it? And they were like, man, seems cool, I guess. That's what's up. Yeah. And literally, I was like, all right, that's enough for me. So I bought a bunch of shirts and started my business journey. But I was like, man, the thought of entrepreneurship, being able to earn my way to a different quality of life, in a sense, like more freedom, more access to your time, that's what I was latched on. I was like, ooh, I can make my own money and my own schedule, and hopefully be able to sell enough T-shirts to get these stem cells and these rehabilitation costs figured out.
Yeah. So you, at that point, had you pulled the trigger on the stem cell, like you said, it was $10,000. You pulled the trigger on that before you started this business?
Yes. So okay. Yeah, whenever I first started,
did you do it? Did you do the treatment?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, at this time, this is probably like 2020, maybe roughly. I was about 20 years old.
Ago,
yeah.
3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I was about 20 years old roughly. So I went out, got the stem cells, came back.
Where did they do that?
That was in Minnesota, that Rejuve medical place that I had seen the other guys seeing some progress.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, cool.
Just go to the same one.
Yeah, I was like, that's enough for me. So I contacted them. You go through, it's a long process of sending your medical records, your reports, imaging, all that.
If you're like a candidate or whatnot.
Yeah, to see if the facility even thinks you could benefit from something like this.
They did?
Yeah, they saw. So the surgeons overlooked everything. They said, look, man, you're still really young and really fresh out of your injury.
Yeah.
So if this is the route you want to try, I believe there could be some, there could be some potential upside to it. Like, try it. And so, like I said, I got my
That's all you needed, right?
Oh, that's all I needed. I was already sold. Once I got the approved for the credit card, I was cool. And
What was the limit on that credit card?
10 grand, and I smacked it out. As soon as I got out there, I was like, here's my card. And yes, for Primo, let me get a cold water with that too.
Who was the bank?
That was the Care Credit.
Okay, yeah.
But so, and we had.
So you did that. So now you're making minimum payments on that, probably. Right?
Oh yeah, dude. I was drowning paying that off. So, like right before I left, we did like a little fundraiser thing with some friends just to cover like the travel costs, because I didn't realize that Care Credit was only for medical. Like they don't just swipe that at the gas station.
Oh,
so I'm
nice.
like,
okay.
I'm like, oh shit.
So you actually used it for the right.
Oh yeah,
thing,
well, yeah.
That's
But
good. That's good.
so thankfully we had some people in the community that were willing to donate, and we had enough money to drive out there. Like me and my dad drove from here to Minnesota, dude. I want to say
drive.
it was like 28 hours or something worth of driving.
Yeah.
So it was a lick, but we went out there, saw the facility, met the people, talked to everybody. I was like, all right, cool, we're already out here, so here's the card. Whap, here you go. So
did the procedure?
Yeah,
what was that? Like
so
they inject it in you?
So what they do is the particular treatment I went and did, they extract a lot of blood. I don't know how many pints it was, but they took a lot of blood, and then they also went in with like a really thick needle with a tiny drill bit inside of it.
Yeah.
They stuck me in my like pelvis, and the little drill thing drilled out my bone marrow, I guess is to loosely explain it. So what they do, and granted, I'm butchering the crap out of this. Like I don't know the terms for it, but what they do is they take the stem cells out of the bone marrow, they put it and they fuse it in this big old machine. They fuse it with the white blood platelets, like the white blood cells, I guess. And because what they describe or explain to me is like our body heals itself with inflammation. So what they did, they sent a bunch of shots up and down my spinal cord, like around my back, in the center of my back, to cause inflammation. So my body's like, hey, something ain't right here. We need to heal it. So then the following day or whatever, they sent the stem cell concoction into this area because in theory, your body's inflamed, it's healing itself. We're going to give it the best tools to try to go ahead and heal it if there's still any disconnect with my wiring harness.
So they use your own stem cells.
Correct.
So they basically take it out, they mix it with other bits of Sam, your bone marrow, your white blood cells, and then they inject it back into the
near
subject
your injury
area.
Yeah, near your injury site. So for mine, spinal cord.
They inject it inside of your. Okay.
So, in the States, I don't know of any places that do it. They might be some. But I know, like, you have to go out of country to get them actually injected into the spinal cord.
Well, I think you definitely can inject things into the
like
spinal
an
system.
epidural.
Yeah, epidural spinal. I'm an attorney. I have
Yeah.
clients that get epidural spinal injections, ESIs. So they definitely do that. But I guess
But I guess
what
on the
they're
stem
shooting
cell,
in,
right? Yeah, I'm about to say.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
They send it all around up and down my back.
Yeah.
And
multiple injections around there.
And me, I'm an idiot. I'm like, bro, I'm paralyzed. I'm not gonna feel it.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, I should have took the muscle relaxer they gave me because look, from the top of my neck to the bottom of my back, bro, my whole body was locking up. And
Oh, yeah?
like especially whenever it got closer to as it got close to my injury level, the more the pain was like you're just getting shots, like thick shots up and down your back.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wincing, but I'm like, look, this is the least of the pain I've had to deal with so far. So whatever, some shots ain't bad.
Yeah.
So I come home, and they don't really send you home with instructions. They're kind of like, this is pretty...
It's just kind of like it works or it doesn't kind of thing, and see how you progress.
It's kind of experimental, especially back then, because like I said, this was, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of unknowns. They weren't going to guarantee anything.
Yeah.
They were like, look, we're hopeful, but we really can't promise. We've never seen many, awesome, extravagant results from these. So I went home, and I didn't really know what to do because I'm not in therapy. I'm literally just going to the gym. So I'd go to the gym and try to kick out my legs. I'd get on that same little leg machine and try to kick them out, and they would go like from noodles to one day I got them to spasm.
Okay.
So I turned on my spasm, and I was like, oh.
And
what?
you had never done that.
So like I'd had plenty of spasms,
Involuntary?
which is very involuntary. I guess it's like if your muscle was cramping, that feeling how you're kind of uncontrollably contracting. Or
Yeah.
That's basically what was happening.
Is it in your hip or in your?
Oh, it's from like my nipple line down. So like my abs, it's mainly my hamstrings that'll do it. Hamstrings and calf nowadays.
The muscle itself? Okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, like previously, I had really bad spasms, and so they put you on all kind of medicine to kind of, I guess,
alleviate
numb it.
it.
Yeah. But I was like, dude, I'm still having these spasms. I'm still having this pain. Why am I taking the medicine? and they just kept upping the dose. So I just clean quit cold turkey, and I was like, look, if it's not going to do if it's not going to do the intended job, why am I even entertaining this? So I cut it out, and of course the spasms got worse. I got the stem cells. The spasticity got a lot more, I guess, intense, but it became more voluntary. So it would be, like I said, I started out being able to signal, and I'd be like, okay, if I could think about it like this and get in this position, I'll get them to kick out. And doing that enough, I would just literally get them to kick out. They'd touch the pad and stop. They would touch the pad and stop. And eventually I got enough to where I could start kicking out and fully lock my leg. And then now I could add weight and progressively overload. Because in my mind, if I do this 1,000 times, I got to figure out how to do it on and off, right? Sure enough, I did. So I started to figure out how to turn them on. Then I started to learn how to turn them off. So I was like, all right, cool. That's literally all I could do. That and the hamstring curl machine, which was just, the seated, leg curls.
Let's fast forward. Where are you? I'm sure that there was a lot of stages in, your development from that exact point to where you are now. Where are you now?
So now, I just stood on stage alongside some bodybuilders. So
I saw some photos of that.
Half-ass stood, but so I'm walking in a pretty decent upright. It's a gait trainer. That's what it's called. It's like a big walker.
Yeah, it's got it wraps around your torso.
Yeah, that's one of them that I use. That's called the Griot. I also use just a normal grandma walker whenever I need, or parallel bars.
And you can move your legs step after step.
Yes. So my right leg, I'm learning how to progress the steps a lot more smooth than the left. The left leg is kind of like I can get my leg to, get the thighs and everything to contract to hold me up, but I'm still learning that disconnect, because once I figured out how to turn them both on, now I have to figure out how do I turn one on and turn one off.
Yeah.
Because whenever we started that process, bro,
because you got to focus on that one, right? And then now you got to focus on the next, and that disconnect between your brain, it takes a lot of brain power, I guess, more than before when you were just walking.
For sure. Think about it, dude. If you stood up right now, you'd be firing off about 25 different muscle patterns
automatically.
But now that you have to break it down and relearn it, you're like, holy shit! There's so much that goes into just kicking out your leg, and it's something we never think about. Because as a baby, you just
You just take it for granted. You just got
right. You're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I just got to figure out these
designed that way.
Yeah.
So, have you talked to your medical professionals about your progress? Obviously, you talk to doctors, right? Do you go in every once in a while, for checkups, whatever? Are they still helping you? Is your insurance company not paying for any of that?
Insurance will not cover anything with stem cells, to my knowledge, especially not
but
spinal
with
cord realm.
Any sort of
normal stuff,
attributable to the injury specifically. Therapy,
So actually, check this out. So from me starting to learn how to use my body in the gym, this is probably fast forwarding a year and a half, but of me just doing that, going to the gym, trying to do any therapy stuff I could. I met a physical therapist at the gym, and so he started training me pro bono. I was like, dude, insurance isn't gonna cover it. He's like, I don't give a shit. If you want to work, we could work.
Awesome.
And we literally just started with a walker, and we would try to stand up and sit back down. And from working with that, we started seeing enough progress to start walking around his little therapy center. We had made so much progress, he contacts the best therapy center in Lafayette that I know of, for neurological disease or injuries. And so they had their top, therapist. She come out and watch me, and they're blown away. They're like, dude, and and this was, I'm 4 or 5 years into my injury. They're like, and you're seeing these kind of this progress? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's 5 years in. So, so they were able to reinstate with insurance, they did the filing or whatever, and got insurance to re-pick up my therapy. Check this out.
Awesome.
Not only does insurance cover the 2 times a week with the new therapy place, my buddy Scott that's been training me, the other therapist, he still trains me. Yeah. But I said, Scott, well, if they're paying for you, let's get you paid and we'll give me another day of the week. And he was like, no, we're going to keep doing this. I'd go on his lunch break. And he's like, you're going to go over there twice a week. Now you get 3 days a week of therapy. So I was like, word. So I drill that as much as I can in conglomeration with the workouts and whatnot.
So I don't know what's normal, what's not, So it seems like your results, given where you were, it's abnormal results.
Very.
Okay. So what are the medical professionals saying as to where you're going? You've obviously progressed a lot, and it's been seemingly like a consistent progression, not like you did the stem cells and boom, it's, I would almost think that just me thinking from common sense, if you would have had like a drastic change in your circumstance immediately and then it leveled off, that like the progress wouldn't be as likely to go higher
continue.
from the future. Yeah, you know what I mean? Because it would be attributable to the stem cells, and they did their work as much as they can, and then that's pretty much it. But it seems like they just kind of kick-started you a little bit, and then you've consistently gotten better over a number of years, it seems like. So in my common sense brain, it sounds like, well, you just keep working at it and it's going to continue to get better. Have you been leveling off at all the whole time? Have you had different temporary times where, you haven't progressed a lot for a number of like 6 months, or is it just consistently gotten a little bit better every time?
Well, okay, so there was one big hiccup we had, and it was so unfortunate. After my second round of stem cells, I came home and found a blister on my butt. I was like, man, why is there a little blister? So I'd had a checkup with my normal doctor, my PCP, and I'm like, hey, bro, there's this little blister. Like, I've been putting Band-Aids on, it's not closing up. He's like, dude, this is a pressure sore. So I started getting the wound treatments and stuff. It went from a little blister to a golf ball size hole out of my glute down to the bone. I was fighting with that for probably about a year. By the time I noticed it to me getting out of the hospital for the surgery, that was about a year. And that, keep in mind, I'm still going to therapy. I'm still going to the gym.
Yeah,
I got
you're not stopping that. You determined.
Oh yeah, I got a freaking hole in my butt cheek, but I'm like, I don't care. So therapy was so wonky because I'm figuring out the signals, but my body's jumping around with pain.
Yeah.
It was jumping out of pain response. So once that healed, that was half a year to a year ago, I think, is whenever I'm like fully healed out the hospital. Probably over a year, I'm thinking. But since closing up that pressure sore, it has not stopped. Now, granted, not every day is a new PR, but most days have been, man. And lately, dude, now that I'm starting to understand how powerful my mind is, what kind of thoughts do I have to think? How do I step out of my body and really look at this big picture and try to analyze and move? Things are getting a lot crazier. And so I've talked to some professionals, actually, like some of the top professionals that I've been able to come across in my research in the stem cell regard. And so after sending all my medical documents and whatnot, the surgeons called me back, and they're like, this is not their words identically, but they're like, this is fucking crazy. So they're like, not only did you try, but they're like, we've never seen someone just try for 6 years. And the fact that you're starting to see things turn back on is pretty crazy. And I'm like, yeah, so that's off of 2 rounds of stem cells from just them giving me stem cells and going. This next place I plan to go is I go out to Colombia 4 times over the course of a year. I'd stay a week each time. And while I'm there, I'm getting stem cells, hyperbarics, massages, dry needling, the whole 9 yards towards physical therapy. They're able to guide me a lot more because that's what they deal with, the spinal cord injuries.
You're currently doing that?
That's my next plan. So it's just a lot more expensive. Where I went in Minnesota is about $10,000 a pop. This one's going to be
$10,000 every time you go over there.
Over there, it's going to be about 53,000 plus flights. So I'm gonna run it up to 60, but that's for the 4 treatments. So one payment of $60,000, and I got 4 stem cell treatments ready to go, and with therapy. And they also send you home with therapy protocols and new things that me and my therapist can work with, because as you can imagine, in little old Lafayette, Louisiana, we don't come across very many people paralyzed this long and then recovering or even trying to recover.
Right. It's so interesting, the effort part, right? It's man, this is I didn't prepare mentally to think about what's going through your mind as far as really trying to fire those muscles off consistently over a big part, because you mentioned it's the power of your mind, and it's so funny you say that, because that's the most fascinating thing to me. I do a lot of things for business and all this kind of stuff, but what fascinates me is what can you do with your mind, and how you can change your circumstance, change your life, change your patterns, change your mind,
change your reality.
And you, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you just had an attitude of, I'm going to go down this road and I'm not going to stop, The exercise, the fitness fueled that, and it was a consequence of you changing your mind and deciding to go that route. And you have yet to stop that route. clearly. If anything, it's just accelerated with the positive results that you've got, right?
Compound interest.
Yeah. So it was the decision to not allow your circumstance that you were in to determine anything that's going to happen after. You can't know where this is going. You definitely didn't know when you started at the gym. You didn't know, I guess, because it hadn't happened yet.
Right.
You didn't know that you were going to get movement back in your legs and you were going to be able to walk with a little bit of assistance and make these progressive steps. But you believed it was possible.
Well, that's where I learned faith, honestly. It's like I had to blindly believe in something that was everyone around me was telling me was impossible.
This is the most important thing out of this entire podcast. I just want to make that clear to anybody listening. This is the most important thing. It's believing in the possibility of that happening. Maybe not even knowing, right? Did you know? Did you brainwash yourself into saying, I'm walking again no matter what? Did you say that? And if you did say that, did you say that to yourself?
1,000%.
Did you doubt yourself from time to time?
1,000%. That's
Okay.
why I did.
So it wasn't a just unadulterated, I know that I'm going to walk again. It's like, I'm going to take the attitude that I'm going to walk again, and I'm going to back it up with action, and I'm going to doubt it, but I'm going to believe that it's possible and continue to go in that direction.
Yes, sir. And as I kind of went from brainwashing myself to learning and understanding the faith of it, and now that I've seen visual representation of it, it's an unwithering certainty that I'm going to walk. I've had people that have never seen me walk, stand, or do anything. They met me way after the injury, and they'll text me, bro, nothing weird, but like I had you were walking in my dream. I've had multiple people from different states text me that they've dreamt about me walking, come and run up to them in their dream. I don't dream about me in my wheelchair when I'm dreaming. So that's why I'm like, I am certain without a doubt. Now, when, where, how, or why, what does it look like? I don't know. But I know that it's there. So I just know I just have to keep trucking. Tomorrow could be the day. But you don't know if you don't live till see tomorrow.
That's right. We've heard like a lot of your story, and there's plenty more to get there. But I want to stay on this topic, what is your dream that you want to see happen? Is it just walking? Is that the only thing?
Well, the walking is the visual for outsiders looking in. For me, it's
That's why I asked, because obviously you want to.
well, yeah. Like, I mean, the walking is the easiest way to get the message across. But honestly, it's freedom. It's freedom to have the ability to be in control, and I think that's what I'm going for in my life. Like, I fantasize about being able to just wake up and hop out of bed and like go, either take a walk around my yard, play with the dogs, look around my property, like to be able to just hop in my car and drive wherever I want to go. I don't have to bring 10 different things, and I don't have to think about, well, am I going to fit in the bathroom, or am I going to have a bathroom accident today, or am I going to have to do this? Like, I want to eliminate the uncertainty in my life. And so by doing that, I've made myself a lot more of a sound man, I think, because I'm having to build myself so stable to be able to hold, the transition. Like, I have to be able to sustain my thoughts and feelings and actions until I'm in that reality. But that's what's built so much character, I feel like, that a lot of people don't see on the screens, because it's hard to put across the screens. And I'm a very humble person because life had to humble me. And so I don't go and brag and boast about it, but it's like, that's been my biggest flex, is just pulling myself out of the trenches to just see that I still have a lot longer to climb to the top of the mountain, but I'm able to look at the mountain now. And now it's a lot more clearly, it's a lot
And
more
believe
understood.
of the existence of the mountain.
The faith of a mustard seed can move mountains.
Many people, and I would say probably 99% of the people that have gone through what you've gone through, I don't know. I throw around percentages. My wife's like, that's not a real percentage, Yeah, I made it up, but it sounds right, But I would say most people, they give up even looking at the mountain, or they don't believe the mountain exists. They say the mountain may exist for other people, but because of this circumstance, this mountain doesn't exist for me. And they accept the reality of where they're at, and you clearly haven't. You said something a second ago. You said that you want the freedom to be in control of your life and these things, you know. And I don't know if anybody's told you this, but I was thinking about it when you said that, and I feel like you're probably further along in that than you think. Maybe you still need these things, you know, these things around you, but you have taken control of your life in a way that many people haven't. You know, I'm sure a lot of people praise you and you're inspirational and all of these kind of things. I don't know if they get into the details of it, but I'm going to tell you my perspective of it before this is over with. But that it starts with that. I think that that you definitely have done that. You know, you have taken control, and you have not allowed, you know, your circumstance to ground you into something that you're not. You know, so right off the rip, I see that.
It's like I feel like I've met a lot of people with disabilities and such, and a lot of people let their disabilities define them, and I think my disability redefined me, and that's kind of what's been like the biggest blessing out of all this.
Do you ever look at the entire situation and say, "I'm glad that it happened"?
Oh, every day. If people ask me, well, man, if you can go back and if you could change it, what would you change? I would have gotten the gym faster. I would have changed my mindset faster. I wouldn't have got off the bike. I wouldn't have, you know, at first it's like, man, I would have gone faster and wrecked into the dude and just, you know, died or whatever. But now I'm like, I wouldn't even let off the gas. You know, I would have just been like, all right, get ready.
Do you believe that you're in a better place now than you would have if not for the accident?
Man, I was on a highway to hell.
Yeah. Do you think you would have ever had the really opportunity to develop your character the way you have?
No, it probably would have looked a lot different, and I don't know if it would come to fruition quite the same, but it definitely took a couple of things that I knew about myself before the wreck. You know, I'm a hard worker, I'm kind of bipolar, and all these other things, and I learned how to use that as leverage, and then that's kind of just been able to compound into some crazy stuff, you know, like the work ethic, and I find the bipolar kind of really helps as well, because it's like I can appreciate the highs so much better, and so I've learned to kind of eliminate the thought of how low the lows can get.
For everyone listening, that's he's using his bipolarism, you know, or his tendencies as a very positive thing in his life, and that's the theme of what's going on here. You take what you're given, you know, whether you believe in God or not. I certainly do, you know. God gave you this circumstance. God gave you the bipolarism. God gave you the chair. He gave you all of that. But you, it's how you accept those things. It's how you perceive it. And just like you've done, not letting it define you and letting it redefine you. That's such a good statement. That hits home for me, for sure.
Well, it's like everybody prays for the cake, but whenever they get the ingredients, they're clueless. And it's like it took me a lot of fails. Like, I can't stress how many times I had to fall on my face to figure this out, and I'm still figuring it out. But that's okay. It's like once you embrace that, it's like, come on, come hit me. That's all you got. You know, that's what I say to life. You know, but I say that with caution, because I know life can do that. You know, it can hit you real hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we kind of got your journey down. You know, you talked about your inner animal, which is your company, essentially, mostly an online company, if you will, selling merchandise, things like this. Like, what else is that company doing besides it puts out content? You put out content on your social media. You have a website. Like, what else? What is the company doing? What is it selling, you know?
So right now we're primarily selling just apparel, just jackets, T-shirts, hoodies. I mean,
in accordance with the brand, right? Yeah.
All the normal stuff. Honestly, I have bigger aspirations in the long term. I would like to. Well, I find inner animal is kind of becoming a resemblance of hope, and people see the resiliency and the hope and what that could bring. And I really want to like redefine and farther that message and fine tune it the way, like, because the way I think it and the way I'm able to put it out, I'm just not sure how to do it yet. But I have bigger aspirations. I would like to make this into, maybe not this specifically, or I want to create a nonprofit organization in order to help other people with spinal cord injuries, paralysis, being quadriplegic, and whatever disabilities that limit them in their day-to-day life. I want to be able to give them a fighting chance, in a sense where if you think stem cells is your ticket, let's do it. If you think you need more rehab, let's do it. If you need a new wheelchair, let's do it. You need a better walker, let's do it. Because I'm tired of seeing people like little old scared 17-year-old broken Sam. They're in the wind, they're fighting, but they don't have no backup. I've been able to have backup. So I would like to be able to create that pool and say, you know what, look, well, maybe you can't do all the things because you don't know the unknown, but this is what I've figured out.
Yeah.
This worked for me. It might work for you, it might not.
Yeah.
But I don't want to sell anyone anything. I want to give them hope and resources, because I found that's what's gotten my life completely switched, right around. I went from looking at the bottom to now I feel like I'm at the top, even though I'm nowhere close to it. Now I want to at least give that experience to someone and give them the option. I'm not going to force you. If you don't want to recover, hey, cool deal. But if you want to, I want to be able to have the resource bank, for them.
Was the guy's name Ethan? Is that the other guy who is also paralyzed?
Nathan.
Nathan, not Ethan. Nathan, it's like from what you just said, the message seems like you want to create something where Nathan or someone like Nathan, or the resources that Nathan offered you in your hardest times, is available to all those people. So when they Google spinal cord injuries, likelihood of recovery, your company or that foundation gets pulled to the top of the results rather than all of the negative stuff.
Right, because that's all you're going to find. You're going to say, oh, well, yep, we get this many spinal cord injuries a year. This is the very low recovery rate. But dude, I've met people 4 or 5 years out of their injury still seeing progress. That's like I went to a training facility out in Dallas, Texas a couple weeks ago. I met a quadriplegic that was doing fucking box jumps, bro. I seen this man. He showed me his X-ray. His neck was snapped. And I mean, granted, everyone's injury and healing process is so much different. But it showed me, oh, I'm not crazy, because this is what it could look like, and it's gonna look different for me, of course, and I'm okay with that. But that is what really gave me the reminder of okay. Then we turn back to inspiration. Look, Nathan inspired me to just kind of nut up, put in some work, and freaking become the man I'm meant to be. And I just want to at least give others that avenue, because a lot of people that reach out to me, especially in the recovery realm or rehabilitation realm, they just feel hopeless. And I remember how much or how that hurt, feeling hopeless, and what that weighs. And I can't save the world, but I could at least save the weight of someone's world. I feel like then that would be a mission accomplished for me.
That's outstanding, man. It's a really, really amazing story, man. There's so much there. I mean, I feel like we could sit here and talk all day, I mean, there's so much I don't know about what's going on that I'm interested in. I'm trying to think about what direction I want to go, but it is inspiring. I'm sure you hear it a lot, but man, what I want to say is just, yes, it's inspiring. Yes, it obviously makes me reflect on my circumstance and where I'm at, or the real perspective of what's going on in my life, But man, it's just such a great story to offer everyone hope. It's not just people who are going through that, man, because there's so many people out there who feel hopeless for whatever reason, right? Hopelessness feels the same across the board, right? Whether it's due to an injury, whether it's due to mental illness, loss, loss of a family member, circumstance, losing your business, losing your house, losing your marriage, right? Just hopelessness across the board is an extremely sad thing, right?
We're living in some real scary times, man.
Man.
It's like you don't know what kind of fighter you are until you get thrown into the ring. Well, I've been thrown in the ring plenty of times to know that I'm not the best, but I guarantee I could have someone's back better than the cowards that would just watch and say, "Well, good luck."
Yeah. I think about that in my life, man. I think a lot of the time early in my business career, I kind of I was very entitled, I graduated college, went to law school. I didn't really have a problem with law school. I had a problem getting my law license afterwards. That's a totally other story. But I just felt entitled to all of these things. I felt entitled to making a lot of money. I felt entitled to feeling a certain way about my body, all these things. I felt like I should just have those things, And my parents were great parents. They raised me to be confident, but also I lived a relatively easy life. You know what I'm saying? So the business world knocked me down for sure in the beginning. You know, it'll knock you down
Oh, it's ruthless.
through. Oh yeah, dude, it's crazy, man. Especially if you're entitled. Oh, dude, like it'll teach you. Yeah. Well, that's what's good about it. That's what's good about entrepreneurship. That's what's good about, you know, doing your own thing and trying to stretch your own wings and figure out those things about yourself, because you don't know until you put. I had to put myself in those situations. If I would have just went and got a job and did everything that they told me to do, I would have never learned the skills that I did. I would have never had any impetus to actually learn more about myself. I'm naturally a person that wants to learn more about myself, but until you experience, you don't know, right? It's the experience. Certain things can't be learned. You know, you can't learn everything about life by reading books, by listening to podcasts, by watching content. You have to experience them. Your experience is an extreme experience, but it's an example of something that can happen to you that changes your circumstance, and it demands something out of you. It demands you to answer a question. You know, you have to answer whether or not you're going to continue on. And if you are going to continue on, you know, what is that going to look like? And you have to become the person that's necessary to get through that and get on the other side, you know. And that's my experience is different than yours, different than everybody listening, all of that. But I felt the same thing. That's why it's so fascinating to me, because when I started in business, I got my head jammed into the wall. You know what I'm saying? And I had to sit back. And then I was resentful for having such a good life. I was like, maybe if I wouldn't have had such a good life, I would have been able to find that grind within myself to succeed like so many other people that I've seen. I mean, you see these stories of, ex-cons that go off into business, and they don't have any resources or any network or anything. And then they're very successful, It's like, why wasn't I in jail for 10 years? You know what I mean? It's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. But all of those things kind of forced me to answer those questions about myself, much like yours. And I can't help but to parallel, and everybody listening is doing that same thing. They're paralleling your story with theirs, and it's not going to be comparable unless they're Nathan, or something like that, where they've been through. Oh yeah, for sure. Which is great for them to hear yours, because it's such a positive story. Because I think the theme, if you wanted to ask me, if anybody wanted to know my opinion of it, the theme of it for you is you just simply didn't quit. You just didn't quit. That's my favorite quote of all quotes, is just never quit. Because you never know what's coming on the other side of those things. When you were going to the gym and you had the Planet Fitness experience and you were first getting into it, you probably couldn't see yourself sitting with me on this podcast, putting out amazing content for people that's inspirational and changing people's lives. It may not be a lot of people watching this, but there is going to be some that are going to be touched by your story, and you didn't know that at the time, but look where it led you, just because you didn't quit, man.
And that's... Oh, I appreciate you. I appreciate, God for giving me the ability and the grace, and now the more that I learn about His grace, I kind of starting to learn to give myself grace, and because it's definitely been it's got its ups and downs for sure, but it's kind of at the end of the day, I think it boils down to one thing. It's like, how bad do you want it? If you say you want something, whatever it is in your life, how bad? Because life is going to see how bad you want it. And a lot of people are going to bend, break, or fold. Yeah, most people, for sure. Yeah. And it's such a cliche thing, but never quit. Tomorrow could be. I'm a delusional optimist, because tomorrow, hey, that could be my big break. But you never know if you don't live for tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is all about that never quit, because I feel like I failed just like you said you failed. Dude. I mean, I know you don't know my story, but man, I failed so many times. Man, I've started stuff. I failed. I felt like crap because of it. Felt like I didn't have the skills necessary, this, that. I just beat myself up, then bring myself back up, learn more, have a little success here, get kicked back down, have way too high of expectations for myself, then not meet them, and then and then get back to the drawing board and constantly do it, get stressed about money, bills, perception, worrying about what people think about me. I mean, it's just crazy, but I'm not going to quit no matter what. I even if I am that person, like, or if I was that person that, like we're talking about, you know, how bad do you want it? Life's going to tell you whether or not you're worthy of it, or whether you're putting the work in necessary to do it. Many times in my past, I wasn't. I wasn't worth. It wasn't worth it to me. I didn't want it enough. And part of me, with some of the things I do, feel that way too. You know, and I always question whether or not I do want it enough, you know, or whether I'm putting enough action into certain things. So it's a constant battle. You have to always be looking at those things, and I'm sure you do the same thing. You're constantly looking at, am I doing enough? What am I doing? Am I on the right path? But you just don't stop. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I failed a million times, but it's okay because I know I'll get up that million at one time. You know, it's because I. Right, and that's where I built a lot of my confidence and stuff. I think it was from going out and failing, because you understand. Okay, well, one, I have the grit to keep going. Two, that didn't work. So what's the next thing that we could try?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What do you think was the hardest day that you had in that? Was it that day with Nathan?
Yeah, the day when the hardest day of my life, I feel like, was definitely the one that I was debating on unaliving myself, and I was really contemplating. But I don't think it was that aspect that made it so rough. It was me questioning a God that created me in his image, that I wasn't okay with the image. So I went to war against God when I'm already at war with my own body. And I think that was what threw a lot of weight on me. But as I'm starting to grow in my spiritual knowledge and strength, and I'm understanding kind of the bigger picture of just things in general, it's kind of given me a really good perspective. And honestly, man, it's always so scary looking at the impossible until you jump right in it.
Yeah. Well, it's still scary, right? Every day, you know. There's always going to be some level of fear, but it's what you do with it. It's just like what you said with everything that you do, you know. Just when you were like when you were talking about your bipolarism, that's what hit me too. Not super significant in the whole story, you know. It's like it's a part of the story.
It's
not
ingredient.
It's not the main act, but it was your response to it that triggered something in me. I was like, okay, that's it. That's the common denominator, because if you're treating your bipolarism in the same way that you are the chair, or not walking, or having to deal with all these things, and you're looking at it in a positive light, that's the secret sauce. And I think you just naturally do that because you're just determined not to quit. You're just going to continue on, and no matter what, you can't continue to steps forward in your life and continue to beat yourself up and be negative about it.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah. I've tried to like come to work, you know, or try to do this thing and take the action with the negative. It just doesn't work. Something happens. Something breaks. Either you stop or you change your attitude, right? So if your purpose and your reason for what you're doing is stronger than all that other stuff, then that's what changes that attitude into positivity and allows you to keep taking that action, you know. But you were doing that, and that reminded me, it's like, okay, this dude's doing it in everything. It's not just like he wants to walk again. It's not just that, you know, he wants to hold down a great job or be successful with his business or something. You're applying the same attitude to everything in your life. And that's the key for everybody listening. You know, it's not just, you know, if you want to be good in business, or if you want to be good in your marriage or your relationships or whatever it is, it's kind of across the board. You know, you can't just pick one and be really positive on one and then and be completely negative on the other. It doesn't work, right?
It bleeds into each other. Either the positivity will bleed into the negativity, or vice versa. And I mean, in this mission, I feel like I put myself in a really do or die mentality, and I can't die, so I just got to keep doing it.
But anybody who listens to that, that's not every part of your story, but it's a good chunk of it, right? It's not going to get better. You don't have to change it. You just have to keep being yourself and being. Just continue. That's it. By you continuing your journey and continuing in the way that you're doing, you ratify everything that you just said. All of the mindset, positivity, looking at the mountain, everything that we just talked about, All you have to do is just live it. And people will realize it. People will see that. I see that. And anybody who watches this podcast, if you're not inspired by a story like that, it's not about the chair, man. It's about what you have become because of a circumstance, you know? Like you said earlier, like you got offended when someone, you know, oh, you're inspired by me opening a damn door. I get that, you know what I mean? But it's not about the door. It's about the transformation that you achieved within yourself to get to that point. The door is evidence of the transformation.
That's actually a really good way to look at it. Like, I never thought of it like that, but that makes a lot of sense.
It is. And everybody's inspired because they know that it's a hard circumstance. They know it's a hard thing to deal with, right? Like, obviously. And they just see you living your life despite it, and they don't think that they can go through that. And they certainly don't think off the rip, unless they're kind of, you know, just neurotic or something, that they're going to stay positive in that environment. So when they see you doing it, they are inspired by that because they see somebody doing something that they believe that they can't, or they believe that it would take a huge transformation to even achieve that level of state of mind to be able to continue on that journey like that. So it's just, what you're doing is just simply evidence of what's going on inside of you. You see what I'm saying? And you don't have to change your story. You don't have to change what you're doing. You don't have to change the way you're doing it. You just have to keep going. You just have to keep going, and you're doing. What's awesome about it is, you know, this is not a company, man. You know, your thing. It's not, man. It's just a brand that represents your transformation in a tough experience. It gives people light at the end of the tunnel. For them to understand that no matter what their circumstance is, there is hope, and there is a way out, and there is a way to change what they're doing.
Right. Inner animals of feeling. I want someone to be able to see a product or a logo or whatever and feel the fight they have from within themselves. They just don't know it yet, because I didn't know it. Now still, I'm sure I'm barely even tapping into it.
Until you got behind the camera, nobody knew about it except for your grandpa and your grandma, right? So we have to continue to do these sorts of things. And, you know, I have my own story. My story's not as impactful as yours. You know what I'm saying? You have a duty now to share that because, you know, this has helped me a lot, right? It's going to help the people that watches this. But now you just got to continue to share it, man, and continue to live the life, and continue to believe in yourself, continue to believe in the outcome, and you've got a great life ahead of you if you just continue doing that. I mean, you know, I'm no like big mentor telling you, but I just see that for you. So, yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I've come across that maybe someone could benefit from this piece of advice is, he who enjoys the journey is always going to travel farther than he who enjoys the destination, because that's another big thing that I'm learning from this. Like walking, I couldn't give less of a shit about. I mean, I love to walk. It's awesome at therapy. I'm busting butt walking, but like, I still want more. I still want more out of myself, which is good, but it's like, I'm just falling in love with the process. That's right. And I think that's what's going to take me farther, or at least I'm going to travel longer.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can't, it's very hard to hate the entire process and somehow get where you want to go. I know that's for sure. So to end out the podcast, man, just kind of, I want you to look at the camera in a moment. And I want you to imagine that there's another individual who is that 17-year-old Sam, okay, that just had that accident and was rolling to their friend's house and had that drop dead date that you were talking about. And I want you to think about what you would tell that person, because that's the hardest day. They're going through the hardest time. Usually when I have guests on here, I have to hypothesize about what some hard situation is, right? But we know what yours is, and we know what helped you. So I want you to give you the opportunity at least to try to help that person get through that time, because that person doesn't think that they have it. They don't think that they have it. So just give them some advice, man, and tell them what you think they need to be thinking about to get on the right track, man, to get through what they're going through. And take your time.
Well, I would definitely say a couple of things. In regards to disability, I feel like you're not crippled unless you're crippled in your mind, because your mind is going to control where the rest of your body goes. So the weight of the world that just got dropped onto you didn't kill you. So the ball is in your court to figure out what you want to do with it. And I mean, man, I can go on all day about this. Let's see. It's always impossible until someone does it. That's another one I really like, because it's a different feeling whenever whenever you're able to overcome these obstacles and you're able to fight through these battles and you're at war with yourself, but you're finally starting to win. That's the part of the journey that often gets overlooked, or maybe actually that's what gets overlooked. They look at it too much. They fixate it. But there's a lot of battles. There's a lot of hardships and trenches you're gonna have to dig your way through in order to get to that mountaintop. But how bad do you want it? How much are you willing to dig down within yourself and find that strength that you didn't even know was there? You didn't know it could even exist, but you're gonna keep digging because that's where you want to get to. You want to get to the feeling of overcoming any obstacle that they ridded you of. That's a really good question. Like, what's your why, and that being your why, I feel like could definitely put you on this journey a lot longer than most would be.
I mean, I would like to have a very popular podcast, but just for anybody listening, I'm gonna keep doing this anyway, even if it's my mom listening or my couple of friends. Like, I don't care, man. I'm learning so much about myself by doing this. It's incredible, man. And like, when would I have had a conversation like this with you in real life? Right. I'm doing business. I'm very busy. It's hard to even pin me down on the phone at this point. Sometimes, I feel like. So it pulls me into this world. It pulls me into these discussions that I'm passionate about, that I have with the people that I love. But it's just an awesome experience. I love it.
It's the inner animal experience.
It is, man. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Dude, thank you so much for having me, man. It's been my pleasure for sure, and I'm really excited to see where the growth takes us.
Life is one